At kindergarten graduation, my parents brought expensive gifts for my nephew. When my 7-year-old asked what she'd get, my father said, "Nothing. Your mother doesn't deserve to celebrate." She sat quietly. Then the principal announced, "We have a special award for academic excellence, and the recipient is..." My parents couldn't move. The gymnasium smelled like floor wax and the coffee someone had spilled by the back door. 73 people sat in metal folding chairs arranged in rows that weren't quite straight. My daughter was in the third row with the other graduating kindergartners, wearing the white dress I'd bought her at Nordstrom 3 weeks earlier. $247. My parents sat 4 chairs down from me. My nephew sat between them, holding a wrapped box that I knew contained a Nintendo Switch. For $100, probably more with the games my mother would have added. I sat with my hands folded in my lap. My phone buzzed twice in my purse. I didn't check it. I knew what the messages said. The contract had been signed at 2:47 p.m. that afternoon. Everything was done. Let me tell you how we got here. I'm the younger daughter. That's always mattered in my family, though nobody says it directly. My brother is 41. I'm 37. He has 2 kids. I have 1. He married someone my parents approved of in 2011. I married someone they tolerated in 2016. He works in commercial real estate. I worked in nonprofit development until 3 years ago. In my family's eyes, these facts arranged themselves into a natural hierarchy that nobody questioned. My daughter was born in January 2019. My nephew was born in March 2018. From the beginning, the difference in how my parents treated them was clear but never acknowledged. For my nephew's first birthday, they rented a room at the Ritz-Carlton and hired a photographer. $3,000, my mother told me proudly. For my daughter's first birthday, they came to our apartment for cake. My mother brought a card with $50 inside. When my nephew started preschool in fall 2021, my parents established a college fund for him. $25,000 initial deposit. My father told me this at Thanksgiving dinner. "We want to make sure he has opportunities," he said. He was looking at my brother when he said it. When I asked if they'd consider doing something similar for my daughter, my mother said, "We'll see how things go." I started making calls the next week. By December 2021, I'd contacted 4 former colleagues who'd left nonprofit work for private sector consulting. By February 2022, I had 3 informational interviews scheduled. By April 2022, I'd accepted a position as Senior Director of Strategic Partnerships at a healthcare analytics firm called Meridian Solutions. Base salary, $83,000. Stock options that would vest over 4 years. I started May 2nd. I didn't tell my parents about the job change. When my mother asked what I was doing for work, I said, "Still working with nonprofits, consulting now." Technically true. Meridian's clients included hospital systems and public health departments. The pattern continued. For my nephew's 4th birthday in March 2022, my parents took the whole family to Disney World. 7 days, staying at the Grand Floridian. My father paid for my brother's family. "You're welcome to come if you can afford it," my mother told me. The trip would have cost us $4,800. We didn't go. For my daughter's 4th birthday 2 months earlier, my parents came over for pizza. They brought her a stuffed animal from Target. $16. I saw the price sticker they'd missed on the tag. I closed my first major contract in August 2022. A 3-year partnership with a hospital network worth $1.2 million in revenue for Meridian. My commission was $47,000. I deposited it in a separate account at Chase that my husband and I had opened specifically for this purpose. The account my parents didn't know existed. My nephew started kindergarten in September 2023. My parents threw him a party. They rented a pavilion at the park. Catered food. A bounce house. 200 people. My father gave a speech about how proud he was. He talked about my brother's success, about the legacy they were building. He mentioned my nephew by name 11 times. He didn't mention my daughter once, even though she was there. I'd been promoted to Vice President of Strategic Development by then. Base salary, $123,000. I'd brought in $4.8 million in contracts over 18 months. I was managing a team of 6 people. My boss had told me the previous week that I was being considered for executive VP when Harrison retired in 2 years. I still didn't tell my parents. The close calls were frequent. In November 2023, my mother came to our apartment unannounced. I was on a video call with a client, wearing a suit, sitting in my home office with my credentials displayed on the wall behind me. Master of Public Health from Georgetown, 2012. Certified Healthcare Partnership Specialist, 2022. She knocked on the door. I muted the call and stepped out. "What are you doing?" she asked, looking past me into the office. "Just a consulting call," I said. She nodded. "Well, don't let me interrupt your little projects." She left before I could say more. In February 2024, my father asked why we'd bought a new car. A 2024 Honda Accord. $38,000, paid in cash. "Consulting must be going well," he said. His tone suggested he didn't believe consulting paid that well. "We've been saving," I said. He looked at my husband. "Good for you for being frugal." He didn't ask any follow-up questions. In April 2024, my daughter mentioned at a family dinner that Mommy had been on an airplane. I'd flown to Seattle for a conference. 3 days, speaking on 2 panels about healthcare partnership models. "Where did Mommy go?" my mother asked my daughter. Before I could answer, my daughter said, "To talk to people about hospitals." My mother laughed. "That sounds boring." She turned to my nephew. "Tell everyone about your soccer tournament." The weight of maintaining the secret was constant but manageable. I compartmentalized. At work, I was the VP who'd increased partnership revenue by 43% in 2 years. At family events, I was the younger daughter who'd never quite measured up. My team at Meridian knew my capabilities. My parents knew their assumptions. I let both exist simultaneously. But then May 9, 2024, everything changed. My brother called me that Thursday evening at 6:15. "The family's getting together Saturday for Mom and Dad's announcement," he said. "What announcement?" I asked. "You'll see," he said. "Just be there at 2 o'clock. Their house." I knew immediately what it was going to be. My parents had been talking about updating their estate plan for months. My father had mentioned it at Easter. "We want to make sure everything is handled properly," he'd said, looking at my brother. "When you have significant assets to transfer, you need to plan carefully." I called my lawyer Friday morning at 9:30 a.m. Jennifer Chin. I'd hired her 6 months earlier when I'd started planning for exactly this possibility. "It's happening tomorrow," I told her. "Do I have everything I need?" "You have the documentation for the LLC?" she asked. Filed in Delaware on March 15, 2024. I'm the sole member and manager. The accounts are separated? Business account at Wells Fargo. Operating account with $218,000 current balance. Investment account at Vanguard with $463,000 from the stock options that vested. Personal savings at Chase with $192,000. Property deed? Transferred to the LLC on April 3rd. The condo's value appraised at $450,000 last month. No mortgage. And the partnership contracts? All executed through the LLC as of January 2024. Current annual revenue $1.8 million. I have copies of everything. Jennifer was quiet for 3 seconds. Then you're ready. If they do what you think they're going to do, you have the documentation to make your position very clear. I didn't know that the same day I was talking to Jennifer, my father was meeting with his estate attorney finalizing documents that would transfer 80% of his assets to my brother. I didn't know my mother had already picked out the announcement cards she planned to hand out at the gathering. I didn't know they'd invited 43 people to witness what they assumed would be a celebration of my brother's success and my continued irrelevance. Saturday arrived cool and cloudy. I dressed carefully. A Talbot suit I'd bought specifically for presentations. Navy blue, professional but not intimidating. My daughter wore the same white dress from her kindergarten graduation the week before. She held my hand as we walked to the car. The drive to my parents' house took 18 minutes. My husband drove. Neither of us spoke. My daughter asked once if Grandma and Grandpa would have presents. "I don't know, sweetheart," I said. It was 1:47 p.m. when we pulled into the driveway. The house was full. I counted 43 people as we walked in. My parents' friends. My brother and his family. Aunts, uncles, cousins I hadn't seen in months. Everyone was dressed nicely. There was catered food on the dining room table. Someone had brought wine. The atmosphere felt celebratory. My mother saw me first. "Oh, you made it," she said. Her tone wasn't warm. She looked at my daughter. "She's wearing that dress again?" "It's a nice dress," I said. "I suppose." My mother gestured vaguely toward the back of the room. "You can find seats wherever." My father was standing near the fireplace talking to his attorney, a man named Richard whom I'd met twice before at family events. They were looking at a folder of documents. My father saw me and nodded once. No smile. My brother was in the center of the room with his wife and kids. People were congratulating him. I heard fragments of conversation. "So well-deserved. Your parents are so generous. What an opportunity." We found seats in the back. Metal folding chairs, the same kind that had been at my daughter's graduation. My daughter sat between my husband and me. She swung her legs and looked around at all the people. At exactly 2 p.m., my father moved to the front of the room. Everyone got quiet. "Thank you all for coming," he said. "Barbara and I wanted to gather everyone here today to make an important announcement about our family's future." My mother stood beside him, smiling. "We've spent considerable time over the past year working with our attorney and financial advisor to structure our estate in a way that reflects our values and rewards those who've demonstrated responsibility and success." I felt my husband's hand find mine. As many of you know, my son has built an impressive career in commercial real estate. He's provided well for his family. He's shown the kind of judgment and capability that gives us confidence in our family's continued prosperity. People nodded. Someone said, "Here, here." Therefore, we've decided to transfer the majority of our estate, 80% of our assets, valued at approximately $3.4 million, to our son, effective upon our passing. This includes the lake house, the investment portfolio, and the business interests we've maintained over the years. My brother stood up. People applauded. My mother hugged him. My father shook his hand. "We're also establishing an education trust for our grandchildren," my father continued. He paused, looked directly at my nephew. "For our grandson, we're establishing a fund with $200,000 to ensure he has every opportunity for the best education possible." More applause. My nephew, who was 6 and didn't understand any of this, smiled because everyone was smiling. My father's eyes moved to me for the first time. "For our other grandchild, we'll be contributing what we can when the time comes." The room went very quiet. A few people looked at me. Most looked away. My daughter, who was sitting right there, who could hear everything, leaned against my arm. She didn't say anything. She just sat there quietly while her grandfather announced to 43 people that she wasn't worth planning for. My mother handed out cards. Formal announcement cards with embossed lettering. "We wanted everyone to have something to commemorate today," she said. I didn't stand up to get one. I sat there with my daughter pressed against my side and my husband's hand tight around mine, and I made a decision. I'd been preparing for this moment for 18 months, but I'd hoped I wouldn't need to use it. I'd hoped my parents would surprise me. They didn't. I stood up. The room was still buzzing with congratulations for my brother. My father was talking to Richard about signing schedules. My mother was opening wine. "Dad," I said. My voice was quiet but clear. He looked up. "Yes, I have something I'd like to share as well. Since we're making family announcements today." My mother's smile tightened. "I think we've covered everything important. This will just take a moment." I reached into my purse and pulled out a folder. I'd prepared it Thursday night after my brother's call. I wanted to let everyone know about a professional milestone. My father's expression showed mild interest mixed with condescension. "Of course." "What is it?" "I recently finalized the expansion of my healthcare consulting business. The LLC I established in March 2024 just secured 3 new partnership contracts." "That's nice," my mother said. Her tone suggested it wasn't nice at all. It was an interruption. "The contracts are with hospital systems in Washington, California, and Massachusetts. Combined 3-year value of $4.2 million. The room got quieter. My father's expression shifted. Not much. Just a small furrow between his eyebrows. I'm sorry, what? $4.2 million in contracted revenue. My share after expenses and team compensation will be approximately $1.6 million over the contract term. My brother had stopped talking to his friends. He was looking at me now. I don't understand, my mother said. You work in nonprofit consulting. I did. I worked in nonprofit development until May 2022. Then I moved to the private sector. I've been vice president of strategic development at Meridian Solutions for 2 years. Current base salary $123,000, plus commissions and stock options. I saw my mother glance at my father. A pause. 2 seconds too long. Why didn't you tell us? My father asked. You never asked. Richard, the attorney, was watching me now with professional interest. I saw him shift his position slightly as if to get a better view. My father cleared his throat. Well, that's good for you. But this doesn't really change. I'm not finished, I said. I opened the folder. I also wanted to share that I established my daughter's education fund in January 2024. Current balance is $312,000, invested in a 529 plan through Vanguard. It's projected to grow to $750,000 by the time she's 18, which should more than cover undergraduate and graduate education at any institution she chooses. My mother's face had gone pale. Just slightly. The color's starting to drain. Additionally, I continued, I purchased a property in March 2024. A 3-bedroom condo in the Pearl District. Appraised value $450,000. Purchased with cash through my LLC. No mortgage. You bought a house, my brother said. His voice came out different. Higher. Tight. A condo, yes. We've been living there since April. I didn't mention it because, honestly, family real estate discussions always seem to center on your developments, and I didn't want to interrupt. People were staring now. All 43 of them. The congratulatory atmosphere had evaporated. Something else was filling the room. Confusion. Awkwardness. Growing tension. My father put down the document he'd been holding. I watched him swallow hard. How exactly did you afford all of this? I earned it. Over the past 2 years, I've personally brought in $8.3 million in partnership contracts for Meridian. My compensation has reflected that. I've also exercised stock options that vested last month, currently valued at approximately $463,000. My mother tried to smile. It didn't work. If you're doing so well, why do you dress like you do? Why do you drive a Honda? Because I prefer to invest in assets that appreciate rather than appearances that don't. The Honda was $38,000, paid in cash. It's reliable transportation. The money I didn't spend on a luxury car went into index funds instead. I pulled out another document from the folder. I also wanted to clarify something about my daughter's education. Dad, you mentioned contributing, what you can when the time comes. I appreciate the thought, but it won't be necessary. Her 529 is fully funded for undergraduate. I'm establishing a separate trust next month for graduate school and additional opportunities. The paper in my father's hand shook. Just barely. Just enough that I saw it. I don't believe this, my mother said. You're making this up. I pulled out my phone, opened my Wells Fargo app, turned the screen toward her. That's my business account. Current balance $218,000. Would you like to see the investment accounts as well? She didn't answer. She'd stopped trying to smile. Her face had gone from pale to slightly flushed to pale again in the span of 10 seconds. Richard stepped forward. May I ask what kind of LLC you've established? Single-member LLC registered in Delaware. I'm the sole owner and manager. It operates as a healthcare consulting and partnership development firm. All contracts since January 2024 have been executed through the LLC, which provides liability protection and tax advantages. And you have documentation for all of this? I handed him the folder. Inside were copies of the LLC formation documents, the property deed, the 529 statements, the 3 new partnership contracts with signatures and execution dates, and my most recent pay stub from Meridian showing year-to-date earnings of $147,000. Richard looked through the documents. He took his time. Nobody spoke while he read. The silence lasted long enough that I heard someone's phone buzz in another room. Finally, Richard looked up. He looked at me, then at my father. These are all legitimate. The LLC is properly registered. The contracts are executed. The property transfer is recorded. He paused. The 529 plan alone has more than the education trust you're establishing for your grandson. My mother sat down. She didn't decide to sit. Her body just seemed to fold into the nearest chair. My father's face was completely red now. Why are you doing this? Why are you embarrassing us like this? I'm not trying to embarrass anyone. You gathered 43 people to announce how you're distributing your assets based on who's demonstrated success and responsibility. I'm simply providing context about my own success and responsibility. I thought it was relevant. You should have told us, he said. When? When you said my consulting was cute little projects. When you laughed at my daughter for saying I want to talk to people about hospitals. When you asked me if I could afford to join you at Disney World and didn't offer to help when I said we couldn't. I kept my voice level. Calm. You made assumptions about my life because I didn't correct them. That's not the same as lying. My brother finally spoke. So what? You've been secretly successful this whole time just to throw it in our faces today? No. I've been successful because I work hard and I'm good at what I do. I'm sharing it today because Dad just announced to everyone here that my daughter isn't worth the same planning and investment as my nephew. I wanted to make it clear that she doesn't need it. She's provided for. By me. I looked at my daughter, who was still sitting quietly in her chair. She was looking at me with wide eyes, not understanding all of it, but understanding that something important was happening. And speaking of my daughter, I said, turning back to my father, you told her last week that she'd get nothing for her kindergarten graduation because I don't deserve to celebrate. You said that to a 7-year-old child. The room was completely silent now. I don't remember saying that, my father said. You said it at her graduation. In the gymnasium. Right before the principal announced that she'd won the Academic Excellence Award. You couldn't move when they called her name because you'd just told her she deserved nothing. My mother's eyes were closed. She was shaking her head slowly. And do you know what she did with that award? I continued. She walked up to receive it with her head high. She smiled. She thanked the principal. And when she came back to sit with me, she whispered, Mommy, I won something. Because despite what you just told her, she was proud of herself. I put the documents back in my folder. So here's where we are. You've announced your estate plans. That's your right. Your money, your choice. I'm announcing that my daughter is fully provided for, my career is established, and we don't need anything from anyone. That's my right. My work, my choice. I looked at Richard. The documents you're holding are copies. I have the originals with my attorney, Jennifer Chen at Chin and Associates. If anyone has questions about their authenticity, you can contact her directly. Richard nodded slowly. These wouldn't be in question. Everything here is standard documentation for a successful professional establishing asset protection and education planning. My father tried one more time. You're being dramatic. We're not cutting you off. We said we'd contribute what we could. When the time comes, I finished. Yes, I heard you. And I'm telling you the time doesn't need to come. We're set. I walked to where my parents were standing. I wasn't angry. I wasn't gloating. I was just done. I came here today thinking maybe you'd surprise me. Maybe the announcement would be different than I expected. Maybe there'd be some acknowledgement that both your children, both your grandchildren, matter equally. I shook my head. But you did exactly what I thought you'd do. You valued one child's success over the other based on assumptions you never bothered to verify. My mother opened her eyes. We didn't know. Because you didn't ask. In 2 years, you never once asked me detailed questions about my work. You never asked to visit our new place. You never asked how we could afford the things we could afford. You just assumed I was struggling and my brother was thriving, and you built your entire estate plan around that assumption. I could see other family members shifting in their seats. Uncomfortable. Some looking at me with something like respect. Others looking away. I need to go, I said. I have a contract call at 4 o'clock with a hospital system in Boston. $6.8 million partnership over 5 years. My commission will be about $280,000 if we close it, which we will, because I'm very good at my job. I held out my hand to my daughter. She took it and stood up. Congratulations on your estate planning, I said to my parents. I'm sure it will work out exactly as you've envisioned. We walked to the door. My husband followed. Nobody tried to stop us. I heard my father say something to Richard, but I didn't hear what it was. I didn't look back. We'd been in that house for 23 minutes. In the car, my daughter asked, "Are Grandma and Grandpa mad at us?" "Probably," I said. "Because you have a good job?" "Something like that." "That seems silly," she said. "Yes," I said. "It does." My husband started the car. It was 2:23 p.m. We had time before my call. We went to get ice cream. The fallout was immediate and comprehensive. My father called that night at 9:47 p.m. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail saying we needed to talk, that I'd misunderstood, that they'd never meant to diminish me or my daughter. I didn't call back. My mother sent an email 3 days later. She said they were reconsidering the estate distribution. She said maybe they'd been hasty. She asked if we could meet for lunch to discuss it. I replied, "Thank you for the offer. Your estate is yours to distribute however you choose. We're doing fine." The family grapevine, which I'd underestimated, went into overdrive. Within a week, everyone knew. The cousins called. The aunts sent messages. Everyone wanted to know if the numbers I'd shared were real. I confirmed they were and said nothing else. My brother called once. "You really making that much?" he asked. "Yes. Why didn't you say something before?" Nobody asked. He was quiet for a long time. "They're pretty shaken up. Mom especially." "I imagine so. Do you think you could have handled it differently?" "No," I said. "I don't." He didn't call again. Over the following months, things shifted. My parents revised their estate plan. The new distribution was 60% to my brother, 40% to me. They established matching education trusts for both grandchildren, $150,000 each. My mother sent the updated documents to me via email. I filed them without comment. They invited us to Thanksgiving. We went. The dynamic was different. Careful. My father asked about my work. Real questions. How many clients did I have? What markets was I targeting? Was I planning to hire more staff? I answered briefly and changed the subject. My mother bought my daughter an expensive gift for Christmas. An American Girl doll with accessories. $340. My daughter was thrilled. I said thank you. By March 2025, things had settled into a new normal. We saw my parents once a month. Family dinners. Birthdays. The gatherings were smaller. More subdued. The inequality wasn't gone. My nephew still got more, still received more attention, still occupied more space in my parents' imagination of the future. But it was less stark. More masked. I got the promotion to Executive VP in August 2025. $178,000 base salary. I told my parents in a text message. My mother replied, "Congratulations." "That's wonderful." My father called. "I'm proud of you," he said. He'd never said that before. "Thank you," I said. My daughter started second grade in September. She made honor roll every quarter. My parents came to her school concert. They sat in the third row and clapped. My father took pictures. My mother posted one on Facebook with the caption, "Our granddaughter the star." It was the first time she'd posted about my daughter in 2 years. For 11 months, everything was stable. Quiet. Resolved. Then last week, my lawyer called. "Your parents' attorney contacted me," Jennifer said. "They're claiming the estate revision was completed under duress." I was at my desk at Meridian. I had 3 contracts on my screen waiting for review. "What?" "They're saying you coerced them into changing the distribution by threatening to cut off contact with your daughter. They want to revert to the original 80-20 split." I never threatened anything. I know. But they're filing a motion. Richard is claiming they were emotionally manipulated at a family event and made changes they didn't truly want to make. I sat back in my chair. Looked out the window at the city. When is this being filed? Next week. I'll need you to come in and review everything. We'll need to document the timeline, your communications, Everything that happened at that announcement party. I recorded it, I said. Jennifer paused. You what? I recorded the whole announcement. Audio on my phone. I'd planned for the possibility that they'd try something like this eventually. I have 47 minutes of my father explaining why 80% should go to my brother and my daughter deserved nothing formal. I have my mother agreeing. I have the whole conversation afterward. Everything. You've had this the entire time? Yes. In my safe. Along with the original documents Richard looked at, copies of every email my parents sent afterward, and a detailed timeline I created in case I needed it. Jennifer was quiet for 5 seconds. Then she laughed. Short. Sharp. Professional. Send me everything. This is going to be a very short motion. I hung up. Pulled up my calendar. I had a meeting in 15 minutes with a potential client. A hospital network in Oregon. Initial discussion for an 8-year partnership. My projected commission if we closed, $412,000. I looked at the photo on my desk. My daughter at her 2nd grade graduation last month. Academic Excellence Award. Again. She was smiling. Confident. Proud of herself. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Can we talk before this gets out of hand? I turned my phone face down. Opened the meeting agenda. I'd been waiting for this. So, what do you think? Did my parents push too far, or was I justified in how I handled it? Let me know in the comments and subscribe for more family drama stories.